There we
Uh-oh.
go.
Good day, everybody. This is I'm the Dad, Nathaniel Evans, with host, co-host Jeannie Muhammad. Um, we actually here to talk about leadership, happiness, and a host of other issues that actually deals within that spectrum. We actually want to build lives, and we want to actually know that all the different elements of life that we are building is actually conducive for us, in this life. And if we can make these processes better for ourselves as well as others, then I believe that, as us being a data of change, us being a data of life itself, the statistical drama that they talk about, we also have responsibility to bring forth these different levels of change. So with that, Jeannie,
Peace and blessings,
peace
everyone.
and blessings.
Yes, I am Jeannie Muhammad, your global happiness expert. And I love to start out with gratitude. Every show, every time that we come on, I like to express my gratitude because I know that without the blessings that I have been given in my life, Nathaniel and I would not be here. Same for Nathaniel. He has been truly blessed to be able to be here with you. I'm grateful for the weather today. I am grateful for life. I'm grateful that we woke up this morning and that we're able to be here with each other so that we can build on what we have been blessed to give so that we can be able to give back to others. That is our mission in life, is as we elevate, we would like to help others to elevate right along with us. So with
Facts.
that, I am going to turn it back over to Nathaniel because we have a wonderful, wonderful show planned for today, one that I am excited about and looking forward to. So, Nathaniel, let's get started.
That's right. That's right. So welcome again to I'm the Data. Advocacy in a Cup is the episode today. We're actually going to talk to different advocates from different states. Is actually dealing with different forms of advocacy and actually speak about what it actually takes to be an advocate and what does the front line look like and what is the relationship that they have actually with the core of the platforms. So many advocates actually journeying on these different, missions, visions that people have and things of that nature without actually getting to the core root of what it is that they're actually doing, what it is they're actually fighting for, and how is it going to be repositioned their lives actually after that cause is over, right? Are they discarded? Are they back into the workforce? What becomes the reality of these individuals, once they come out of these movements and then they actually don't know what happened to the movement. Sometimes these movements are dissolved, and then we have to find out what's actually happening with the changes that's actually taking place in the society. And again, we have Damien Corvette, right? Corvette?
Calvert.
Calvette. How you
Calvert.
doing?
I'm good.
Calvert?
How y'all doing?
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure's
And
all
you're,
mine, brother. I appreciate the work you're doing.
you too, brother. You too. I had a great talk with this brother. And he's strong, man. He's strong, man. He's moving. He's laying some great foundations for our people. And he actually putting his purpose, his spirit, who he is, on the line every day. You know what I mean? To actually fight for our people, to even channel energy into brothers and sisters that he run into that actually lose hope along the way as we actually moving through these different systems that they actually created for us. We are fighting against multiple systems in this society, the prison systems, the welfare systems, the domestic violence systems, all these different systems, violence and things of that nature. And it actually takes a toll on our society, right? Anything that's constantly afflicted with something, anything that's constantly, not able to rest, will actually, become afflicted by it. Everything must need to be at peace in this world, and we must be able to find peace to live amongst one another as humanity, right? There is no, what they would say, big eyes and little U's, right? There is none of that when we actually dealing with this life, because we're all here for experiential learning. We're all trying to gather the facts and put things together for our lives. Even when we think that we know everything, we like how you find out I don't know nothing, right? And I actually like kind of like baffles you at times that you realize that you don't know nothing, right? You read all these books and everything, right? And it's like, oh wow, I missed that lesson, And with that, I want to take over. Jessica, do you have anything to say? And Carvette, he actually vanished off the platform. So, Jessica, your mic is open.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Jessica Hollis Summers. I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am with Change Choices. We are a nonprofit organization here in Charlotte, although we do work all over the state of North Carolina. We work with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women, and we focus on like I said, most of my caseload is North Carolina incarcerated women. I do have some clients who are reentry. I have a couple of ladies who are in the federal system. I am directly system impacted myself. I served 6 years in the federal prison system. I am also a survivor of domestic violence. I am also a survivor of substance abuse. I've been clean for 10 years. I am a North Carolina certified peer support specialist. And I am also in the process of completing my dual degree in psychology with an emphasis in mental health as well as communications. And I have my own business as a freelance writer and editor, specializing in nonprofit communications. So we're
Awesome.
really busy.
Awesome. Daphne, you got a full life.
I
Like you moving
am.
around,
I
right?
am
You got a full
extremely
life.
busy, but my passion is helping.
Yeah,
My caseload is very full. Every day I learn something new from my ladies. In fact, I just got a message from one of my clients who's in the North Carolina State Prison. We're able to very fortunately communicate with our clients directly because North Carolina has actually embraced technology. They have distributed tablets free of charge
nice.
to their residents. And although it is a pay service, they pay 25 cents per message for 3,000 character message. We can communicate with them through a texting service, but it's good
25
because
cents
it
per
allows us.
message.
Yeah, it allows us to keep in contact with them so we know what's going on. It helps us to coach them through mental health episodes. We can send them books. They have access to educational and entertainment curriculum. It's just basically it's really great. We get to just develop a deeper relationship with them, and also it allows us to create what we call vision plans for their reentry. I have a couple of ladies who are coming out within the next year. Change Choices has a transitional home here in Charlotte that we have space for up to 6 ladies, but we're also working with other agencies in North Carolina to develop. We have relationships with them to help ladies to re-enter successfully. We have, we're trying to help them to re-enter after incarceration. There's so many different ways that the system just makes it difficult because there's technology, there are barriers to reentry that make it hard for people to get jobs, that make it harder for people
Mm-hmm.
to find housing. There are financial barriers such as restitution. There are fines and fees. There's transportation issues. There's all of those things, and we try to help them meet those needs while not making them feel like they are clients. We are partners. We walk with them in this
Yeah.
journey. We don't make them. That's why we don't call our position is not case manager. We are change coaches. We are there to help them, not manage them, because they are not cases, they're people. And
Fact.
so that's how we try to approach that situation. So that's basically what I do. It's Sunday,
That's
but I'm still working.
that's great. I mean, we working right here on this platform, so we
That's right.
understand that.
That's right. It's a
We all
24/7 thing.
yeah, definitely.
Jessica,
Right.
hi,
Good.
Yes,
how
ma'am.
are you? I
I
am
am
Jeannie.
wonderful,
Great,
blessed.
great. I just wanted to say that I so admire what you're doing because my background is something like yours, substance abuse and domestic violence abuse. And that's one of the things that I do uh, is help survivors. And I would love to connect with you. I'm also in Charlotte.
Oh,
That's
wow.
right. Yeah. Let the drum
Uh-oh.
ring. Let the drum
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
roll go.
yeah. So I do. I
Yeah.
would love to connect with you because I know how hard it is for women that have been through um, incarceration, domestic violence, drug abuse, and I would love to because I have a free workshop that I offer to women. So we need to get together. We
Yes,
definitely.
ma'am. Yes,
Gina
ma'am.
going to the Gina gonna go to the prisons. She gonna go inside the prisons and do
That's
workshops.
right. Hey,
I just I want to
it's
lift
not,
you up too.
it's nothing but a thing.
That's right. That's right.
I'd like
Yeah,
to lift
brother.
you up also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I really like what you do, and I imagine that when we all share what we do, we're going to see a lot of intersectionality between our work. And I love the narrative of a change coach
Yeah.
and systems
Yes,
impact, a system impacted person. We say return citizen here in
Yep.
Ohio, but I also like systems impacted.
right.
I
Mm-hmm.
like that. I have a flair for narrative and
Mm.
language, so um, I
That's
hope
wonderful.
that we can leave our information as we go along in the box.
Yeah.
I will leave my email, but I will leave my number also, and I hope that as we share our stories and that intersectionality is demonstrated. You can email me, but I would hope you call me. I'm old school. Give me a text or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
call. You know,
Yeah, you can just send it in the chat. I can send it to people privately. I can send it to everybody. I'll make sure
I'll
everybody
put
Yeah.
it
gets
in
it.
the chat, but I hope you capture this and those who consent. You know, we have each other's information because on your platform. Again, thank you for inviting me into it. Um, my end game is always to connect with people to reinforce the services here, you know, with the knowledge and the knowledge of other people's work. Because just as an addiction, when you hear other people's stories and pains being shared, you feel less alone in your part of the journey and that this is impacting people, you
That's
know, and
right.
there's connection there. Gain
Right.
recognize gain, but pain recognize pain, and
Realizes
spirit
pain.
recognize spirit.
It's the
And this
spirit.
is where the magic happens.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
because Chantel want to
Tell us a
go
little
real
about
quick.
you. Is it
Yeah, yeah,
Damien? Yeah, tell
real
us
quick.
about you.
Yeah, it's about you. Yeah, we don't know nothing about you. Too. They
And
don't
and
know. I know some things about you.
Okay, well, first, let me say that I'm in the cigar business as a side business. So today is Sunday cigar. So I'm happy to be
Uh
sitting here in the park smoking an authentic Cuban cigar, you know, on the right vibe and frequency with you. Um, Hello, everybody. I'm Damian Calvert. I hail out of Ohio, Cleveland. I'm a returned citizen. I had 20 years of direct carceral experience. I am the head of Applying Life Lessons Enterprises, where if I was to distill it and make it simple, I introduce people into the process of alchemy. That old science of turning base metals into gold, turning negatives into positives, how to showing people taking them through a process on how to harvest their lived experiences and apply them in ways that add dignity and value to themselves, to the people that they positively impact, and to the struggle that they in. And my struggle, of course, is helping people who have been impacted by the criminal justice system to become whole citizens. Jessica was talking about the challenges that people face in their transition to stabilization back into the community. Those challenges she speak of, aside from the travel challenges and the like, are called collateral sanctions. Those policies, those practices, those procedures, those stereotypes that bar people from equitable access to opportunities, particularly returned citizens. After you've done your time, you still suffer from these collateral sanctions. And so here in Power, here in Ohio, in the position that I have privately and in the work that I do in partnership and collaboration with other organizations, it's about building power. Because as we was taught by Frederick Douglass, power gives nothing in of itself. You got to have power to move power. And one form of power is capacity. And here in Ohio, we have 1.9 million people directly impacted by felonies that have felonies. And so even if they've have not been incarcerated, if they have a felony, they suffer from those collateral sanctions. So here, that's a common interest that we all have, to be fully restored, functioning citizens.
Citizens,
And
that's right.
So what we do is we teach the history of collateral sanctions, what it means, what civil death means, or civic death, because that's what collateral sanctions are. When they bar you from participating in the full enjoyments of your citizenry, that's tantamount to civic death. And we take it all the way back to outlawry, which goes all the way back to old law, back to Old England, where if a person was convicted of a crime against the realm or against the village, they were outlawed, meaning they were outside of the entitlements and the protections of the village or of the realm.
Right.
That's why when we look at old westerns and somebody was considered the outlaw and their poster was posted up on a tree or somewhere in a town saying wanted dead or alive, and a citizen could kill them without no form of adjudication or anything, that's because they were outlawed. And that comes from outlawry. So we teach the history of it, because 50% of solving the problem is how you frame it. So we have to talk about the systems that's at play, the systems of inequities and the systems of racial profiling, and how that feeds mass incarceration, the cradle to the prison pipeline, lead poisoning, third grade literacy scores, and the correlation between them and prison. We have to be able to educate on all them issues, so that when people get into the struggle according to their capacity, they can see what portion of the struggle do they have the capacity to participate in. Whether it's dealing with the lead poisoning piece, whether it's dealing with the trauma-informed care piece, because when we examine violence, especially in my role as a research associate out of Case Western Reserve, violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. Violence is a mental health and is a health period crisis. And then when we talk about how trauma is transferred epigenetically, now we could talk about the ravages of slavery and all of those things that still echo in this populations that we deal with, especially African Americans and people of color and poor people in general. We can talk about this empirically of how this happens, so we can frame it properly, so we can deal with it, and people can see their own level of how they want to engage according to their capacity. And I also currently am, and I'm glad Jessica said that about a case manager. I love that, a change agent, because my
change coach, a change coach.
I love that, a change coach, because in my position as I'm a case manager and a peer support person in a mental health agency called Fortaleza, which means a place of refuge in Spanish. And no, I'm not Hispanic, I'm Black and Italian, but I rock real hard with my Hispanic brothers and sisters.
That's
but
right.
In this agency, we work with people that suffer from mental health issues and suffer from addiction issues. And this is super important, because a huge percentage of this population are also returned citizens or systems impacted persons. One. Then number two, people like myself who have done time, particularly if you did anything over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they tend to classify it as PTSD, but PTSD is merely a symptom. With people who have been impacted by incarceration, who have long incarceration numbers, they suffer from PICS, which is an acronym for post-incarcerated syndrome, which is characterized by a malay of symptoms: antisocial behavior, phobia of crowds, need for routine, learned helplessness from when your steps have been ordered, you've been told what to do, when to do, how to do it. Then you're taken out of that scenario and put into a freedom scenario, and you go from being told what to do, when to do, and how to do it, to don't hang with people with felonies. Don't be caught out after a certain curfew. Don't get caught with after a job with no how-to book on how to do that, right? And so you suffer from a lot of sensory overload. And in that, people fall back into old routines and old habits, because being incarcerated and knowing what's expected of you, it has the warmth of that familiarity. And so post-incarceration syndrome is a big thing. We've been pushing that narrative here in Ohio, particularly through my personal efforts, so they can recognize that in the DMSI books, and be able to have life coaches, psychologists, psychiatrists, and them speak to it appropriately. And lastly, I'm in a lot of reentry focused programs. I sit in different positions to help with people's stabilization back into the community.
Another busy.
Awesome.
Thank
Yeah, brother.
you. Thank
That is
you.
amazing, man.
Well,
I
I'll
Yes.
just
end
want to
that
say this. I know
I
Chantel
think
want to
those
say
of us that were
yeah.
locked up feel like we have a lot to make up for. We lost so much time. They let us out, and we're just like, we have all these things we were thinking about. We spent all that time thinking and planning and hoping and dreaming. They
Yeah.
they opened the door and we're like, we're gone.
Yeah,
Eat my
yeah.
dust.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just
Chan-
off to the
Chantel,
races. You know what I'm saying? We just off to the
There is no
races.
there is no time to waste.
That's a fact, man.
well, I
That's a
think
fact.
just to
Chantel.
just to just to
Yeah,
vibe off of what you're saying, that only those of us who've been bitten by the snake can tell each other how it feels. So when we're talking about, for instance, recovery, it takes a recovering addict to pour lovingly, authentically, and potently into a current addict. And so we would never have a person come in and lead that, no matter how studied they are, does not know the snake bite of that addiction. That's
that's
why I
right.
come to speak to it. Well, the same goes for reentry. The same goes for these issues that we're taking up. Those who have done time, who have found our vision and our mission statement for our lives, who sat back and thought about it, dreamed about it, visualized it. Now we get the opportunity to operationalize it and manifest it. We got a warehouse of energy and we're eager to engage. And
That's
so
correct.
the magic is helping others with that same ambition and intention who may not know how to do that, to help share our processes with them so we could take them on that journey in the full activation.
Facts.
thank you so much.
That's
That
right.
is
Love
so,
that.
I am so excited about all our guests. And I just want to say, is it Chantel?
Yes.
Chantel, you have been so patient. We haven't even
I
welcomed you.
know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
Like
Chantel. Sorry.
so
he's like,
into
well, I'm
Jessica
here. I'm
and
here.
Damien, we didn't even welcome you, but welcome to
Okay.
I Am the Data.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
To be here. Want to thank
Thank you.
Jessica and Damien for talking extensively about your work. I think it's very beautiful, and there are a lot of parallels in my work. I am an urban farmer in Brooklyn, New York, but I farm throughout New York City. I have several sites in the Bronx, and one site in the Brooklyn that I help to co-steward and manage with NYCHA residents. For folks who don't know what NYCHA is, it's New York City Housing Authority, also known as public housing. So what we basically do is we go on public housing property and we show residents how to grow food, and we show them how to use land to do work, advocacy work, and community organizing work. And we also teach about agency, about what it means to have agency over land spaces, about what it means to have access to land, and about the importance of having access to land, whether it's in your direct community or outside of your community, and how that looks across different things, how that looks when it comes to having access to food, how that looks when it comes to organizing for tenant rights or things that's happening in the building, and just how that looks aesthetically, how it makes you feel to come outside of your building and see tulips. The sensory things that happen, the chemicals, that the dopamine that is released into your brain and into your nervous system when you see things that are aesthetically pleasing and is connected to you and it is connected to your community. And another larger part of my work is doing justice work. And so food justice just means just very plainly that everyone should have access to food, that food is a human right. And so just in my work, just saying that food is a human right, folks are like, but what about what about Peter Luger's? And it's like, okay, we're not talking about Peter Luger's, right? We're talking about whole foods. We're talking about people having the basic necessities just because. They don't have to earn it. You don't have to work for it. You just deserve it because you're a living human being. And so a lot of my work goes against that narrative of like food as a privilege, food as a delicacy, food seen as something that we should hoard, and something that we should give because it is freely given to us from the earth. And so, just from what you guys were talking about, food is really and the central point of a lot of these talks around reentry, a lot of
Yeah.
these talks around, you know, how do we get people to a space of like sensory, how do we help people that are experiencing post-incarcerated syndrome, who are experiencing sensory overload, is like having good access to food, having access to land, having access to, you know, frolic and like just be on land without feeling ostracized, you know, and giving people the agency to know that, hey, this is something that you can control. And then there are some things that are out of your control. But when you do have something, when you just plant a seed and you can watch it grow, and you know that you are the direct benefit of that, and you know that if I plant this seed again, it will grow again. That's a different type of control. And then we can start to harness our other things that we're not really in control of. So that's really a large part of the work that I do.
That's right.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God. If I may, and forgive me if I'm
Yeah.
chatty, but I'm
No.
just really excited. So, Chantel, right?
Yes.
First of all, I'm going to have to connect you with Case Western Reserve students that I advise that in their reentry, they're working on the food piece. Because
Beautiful.
here we deal with food deserts, and we talk about the sugars, the refined sugars in there, and how they alter moods. And this goes all the way back to the cradle to the prison pipeline, because a lot of the youth that are in the class that eat a lot of refined sugars and therefore are very hyperactive and being misdiagnosed as with attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity. It really boils down to two things: the food that they're eating, because they're not getting quality nutrients, they're getting refined sugars, and these are mood destabilizers.
Yep.
But also those children or young youth that's coming out of chronic toxic environments, and their
Mm-hmm.
autonomic systems are aroused,
Yeah.
and so they're literally a bouquet of chemicals of
Yes.
epinephrine and adrenaline,
Yep.
which also causes the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely needs to be a new narrative around that, so they understand how to frame it properly, to treat it properly.
Yes.
So I hope definitely that we could talk about it, because
Uh-huh.
that's what these youth at Case Western Reserve, where I'm also a research associate at,
Yeah.
are trying to do reentry, to connect them to the
Yes.
proper foods so they can be in their proper mind as they negotiate and navigate their transition and stabilization back into the community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
I
and I want
also
to
just want
interrupt real
to
quick.
reframe
Yeah, guess
something.
Chantel.
I just
Yeah.
want to reframe something you said, Damien. You said they're in food deserts. And so a desert is a natural environment. And so instead of us saying, as food justice advocates, instead of us saying food deserts, we say food apartheid, because food apartheid says that this is systemic. This is not a natural thing. This did not naturally occur. The way that neighborhoods are set up, the way that the food system is set up is not natural. This was a systemic oppression meant for Black and brown people and poor people to have lower quality access to food versus other folks that are more wealthy.
Thank you so much for educating me on that. I promise I'm going to write that in my notes. A change coach, not a food desert, but a food apartheid.
That is
Because yes,
revelatory. Thank you, sister.
wow, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, because I know Chantel has a phrase too that she says, food is a new poverty, right? I think you heard you say something like that before.
Yeah, I was saying like food is the first access, is the first barrier to poverty. And so if you don't have enough to eat, you literally cannot think. Like your brain will not function correctly. I know we've all had those days where we're like, what's wrong with me? It's like, you're probably dehydrated. You probably need potassium. You need a banana. You need an apple. You need a mango. You need something to like sustain you, right? And so a lot of folks that are, you know, we have hustle culture, we have like grind culture, we have the other folks on the other side that like bootstraps, whatever. It's literally impossible to do these things if we are not being mindful of our nutrient intake, and if we are not being mindful of how our body is processing all of these different foods. And so we cannot ask people to navigate poverty and navigate high intense situations when they don't even have the basic necessities in order to do so.
Yeah, because if they're still in this space of poverty, even if poverty is basically a mindset. It's more of a mindset than an actuality. You know what I mean? But because we live in this physiological world, we want to touch everything. We want to feel everything.
Yeah.
We actually, lose the essence of what we actually striving for, right? And we're actually striving for our inner peace, our inner purpose, right? To bring that inner purpose that we have and put it right on the table and say, hey, everybody, get your full of it. They've been feeling me for all these years. You know what I mean? I'm increased. I feel good. I feel great. Let me come out here and give you some of this energy. Let's change the way things are moving. Let's change the narrative of our lives, right? And at the same time, we also want to be cultivated. As we out there pushing out energy got to be pushed into us, right? So, as it being pushed into us, we pushing it out. We pushing it out. Pushing us, we pushing it out.
And that's why it's important, what I was saying earlier, because in my workshop, the self-care system, see, a lot of people have it wrong as far as what self-care is. They think that it's only going to the spa, getting your nails done, pedicure, but it is all about, as you said, what we eat, what we think, how we just navigate on a day-to-day basis, and knowing we need to be hydrated, we need sleep, we need all of these things as far as self-care, that why we have it all twisted up. And that's why I love to what all of you are doing, because you're coming at it in a way that makes it so plain, that is deeper than what it may be on the surface. When you think about the food and living in a city, just because you live in the city does not mean you cannot take a box of soil and put a seed in it and grow something healthy. You don't have to be limited in your thinking that because I live take some of those concrete blocks that are in the concrete desert and put some soil in it and let something grow from that.
So, it's that's so. And I want y'all to know, because everybody introduced themselves, so now it's an open mic. We just have a conversation. You know what I mean? There's no he come in when you hear something, you come in, you come out. That's up to you.
And we're used to being interrupted, because Nathaniel interrupts me all the time. I interrupt.
That's my pleasure. That is my pleasure. I live for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I live to just interrupt Jeannie. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
Forget my enthusiasm, but in that piece of seed sowing, with youth, those are such teachable moments about sowing into the soil and seeds producing after their own kind, and the teaching moments for youth, not only in terms of connecting them back to their natural environment, which helps to ground them, but also those lessons that's being taught about seed sowing too, and what you putting in is what's going to blossom. And lastly, Chantel, I came across a woman named Lisa Rodriguez when in community relations at City Hall here in Cleveland. For 7 years, I oversaw the implementation of the violence interruption model for the city of Cleveland, doing mediation and de-escalation, particularly with gangs. And Lisa showed me data of the correlation between the planting of trees and trees growing, the correlation to it in violence reduction. They did it. They did the hard science on it. And I'm in the process now of connecting her with some people that I know, the matter of fact, the deputy chief of police here, to make that a part of their violence interruption model, with the planting of trees, not just of the aesthetics in the community and why we need trees, and the whole piece about photosynthesis, because there's a re-education that needs to go on, a reconnection with the natural environment, but the correlation of how trees reduce violence. I never knew that. She's ever to show it.
Because if you think about it, like, so there was like this horrible narrative that was put around, like the hippies, and then call them like tree huggers and all this stuff like that, right? But literally, if you research what happens in your brain when you hug a tree, like, you will be so mystified by just the benefits that you get from just hugging a tree and being embraced by a tree. But then also just if we think about it in community, like when you have trees, that means you have more access to shade, right? When you have trees, that means you have better air quality, right? So we have a lot of communities that have zero shade, that have poor air quality. And then we're like, oh, why aren't you guys outside? Why aren't you guys like, like, why are you guys acting crazy outside? And it's like, I have no air, I have no shade. Like my brain is fried, right? Like my level of thinking is not going to be as clear. I have nowhere to cool off. I don't have a park space, right? So when we have communities that don't have access to trees and don't have access to land and air, like of course there's going to be high violence in that community.
Oh,
Mm.
that is so true. That's why I hate it. I hate it when I see how they're cutting down the trees and just throwing up buildings, because people do not respect the fact of what trees, just the trees, are giving to us. That, and then they wonder why we are having these catastrophes with the floods and all of this, when they are uprooting all the plants in the trees and not really thinking about the benefit of just having trees. People don't
That's right. Hello, David.
appreciate.
Yeah, that's so true. Like trees prevent floods. Trees also the mother tree, which is probably a tree that's like in the middle. So Damien, you're in the park, so you're probably near a mother tree right now. And so mother
Go
trees,
hug that tree.
yeah, right. So mother trees are so amazing because what they do is they have a system that's set up underground. So trees are the first iteration of the internet, where they spread massive information underground using mushrooms and microbials. And so it's like when we think about trees, when we think about this beautiful network of like, we have the mother tree that's able to send nutrients and send information to the other trees around the area. When we have another tree that is able to sustain, like that, just that in itself, if we were teaching that, I think people would have a better understanding of what it means to be connected, what it means to have community, what it means to share information and sharing things freely across the spectrum. Why? Because when I help you, I help myself. And that's one of the
right.
Chantel, you are hitting it. You are a natural priestess. No disrespect to whatever your religious persuasion is. So I have always been of the understanding that the mind must gather its grain from many fields. And so I took a course through the New Mexico Institute of Esoteric Studies and Paganism because I was always fascinated by nature and even the symbolism behind the holidays. You know, the Easter Bunny, Easter egg, all these things, these are natural symbols to edify what you are saying. When I take my shoes off, that is grounding right there. The grass, it grounds me. There's a natural relationship. And in that study, I went back to revisit the word ecosystem because we exist in all these different ecosystems, right? These systems are ecosystems. And the thing that helped me to spiritually mature, to mentally mature, and to kind of be able to condense all this information and make it relate to my population, right? It restored me to the understanding or overstanding of interdependency, interconnectedness, interrelatedness. Because when the sister said they're tearing down the trees and they're building buildings, right? I think about here in Cleveland when I go to and see all the urban blight. And just as the aesthetic appeal and the release of dopamines, when you see beautiful things, well, when you see urban blight, it has the negative effect. It makes you feel unsafe, right? It underscores all the anxieties and phobia about being in an embattled community. And it highlights those things and it creates the propensity, a greater propensity for fear, and therefore a greater propensity toward violence as your go-to move. And the art and the challenge has been, how do we take these new understandings and relate them in a very relatable fashion to the stakeholders that's in the work and into our target population. And so when I took that course, when I was incarcerated, I would sit out barefooted on the yard. I would do my meditations. I would visualize energy being drawn up to the ground and negative energy going down and it recycling it through the earth. And it would center me. And it would help me feel connected to something in a more profound way, much bigger than me. And therefore I could literally understand ecosystems and understand that every movement that I take through space and time, I send a ripple that splash ups against other people and it impacts them. And it makes me be more responsible and cognizant of how I act, what I say. And then when I read the Bible, when I read the Quran, when I read the Torah, when I read other Eastern teachings in their Genesis, there's this common denominator of creation not being thought into being, it's spoken. It's spoken. It's in word, the vibration behind it. All those things, affirmations have to be spoken. The tongue is the gateway to life and death, as it says in Proverbs. The importance that I push to my population on to speak life over other people, speak life into yourself, to break consent from the labels of ex-con, ex-felons, and these labels that we put up on us that cause people to relate not to the human being in the journey, but to the label. It eclipses us. And all of this plays a part in the new movement and in the struggle, just to help human beings be whole, to help human beings be citizens, to have agency, to have power, to recognize their own power through their own experience and their subject matter expertise, that they can have impact no matter where you came from. The challenges that you came through gives you your credential in the struggle. It's part of your living.
We start now.
Yeah.
We start now.
I'm just happy to be in the space with people that understand that, y'all.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, yes.
you know, we wanted to put Advocacy in a Cup because, you know, we're so divided, but we all doing similar work, and, you know, and
Preach,
we
brother.
don't come together, it makes the work that much harder. You know, I was at a platform the other day, and, you know, the guy was telling me that they didn't have certain data that's pertaining to people come out of prison. And I was like, I said, that's impossible that you don't have certain data that people come out of prison actually dealing with medical, you know, actually dealing with education, you know, other different type of achievements, trainings that they actually did. I said, that's a disservice to our population as a people. You know, and this is the person from the Legal Aid Society actually put this speech up on my Instagram page. I recorded it because I wanted people to see this, you know what I mean? And I actually named it, you know, the franchise of prison being explained. You know what I mean? He explained the franchise of prison in a nutshell. Within 1 minute, this man put prison right there on the table. And I was so, I was so floored that I just went off, man. I said, you know, I see all y'all leaders in here. It's like 30 people in here. Y'all got all these different platforms. Y'all say they're from this agency and this agency and this agency. I said, but we're not gathering data that's going to actually allow us to bring forth changes because they're not accumulating the data, so the data is not being accumulated. But you individuals are saying that y'all leaders in these spaces, and then I don't see no entourage of other leaders with y'all or potential leaders with y'all. So how is it that y'all leaders, and I don't see the leaders eating off the platform and building the platforms of their lives, as well as the structural platforms of all these organizational insights or visionary components. And I was just so taken aback that these leaders were just sitting here shaking their head as this man talking about there's no data to bring forth change. We're here to bring forth change. We need data. We need tools and resources also to bring forth change. We're not Houdini, right? We don't do magical tricks, right? And we're not Christ coming out here to turn rocks into bread, right? We're going to turn people, you know what I'm saying, that you turn into rocks into new life. You know what I'm saying? Into new forms of life. And we're going to allow them to tap into the true resources of who they are so they can have the potential to live in life the same way you want to live in life. If you want a steak, I want one too. If I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to get a vegetarian steak. That's what we're going to do, right? I was walking past a spot the other day and it was called Slutty Vegan, right? I was like, I got to go in there with my daughter. We got to go eat some Slutty Vegans. Chantel is my daughter, right? So we're moving in these spaces and we're being collective in these spaces, right? And we're generating new life for ourselves because we're supposed to, and it's our right to do so.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I think even back to like what Damien was saying, and I think this is just like collective of I guess what we're all talking about is like if we don't if we don't have an anchor, if our anchor is not bigger than us, then we get blinded. We get
That's
blinded
right.
by, oh, I have this due date, or I'm getting this money, or I have this title, or oh, that's not my job to do. I clock out at 5, right? And so like we have to have this anchor, and we have to be able to have the earth in its capacity be our anchor, and we have to be able to have something that we're looking back to guide us, and have people that are willing to hold us accountable to what we say and who we say that we are. And so
That's
like as
correct.
doing this work, this land work, this advocacy work, this youth work, right, this people work, is like to also have them be grounded and have them know, hey, listen, like I need to show you just the basics of what it means to be a human being before we even get
Mm.
anywhere else. And then when I can show you what it means to be a human being, then we could talk about all this other stuff that you want to chat about. We could talk about, getting you into a better apartment. We could talk about getting you better clothes. We could talk about all these other things, because like I need to show you what's most important so you can value that, and then we can build up the value system from there.
Oh, that is so true. That is my mission, to bring people back to the basic. And what is the basic? Where does it start? It starts with you. It starts with how you see yourself. It starts with falling in love with yourself. It starts with you understanding your value, because I can give you all the clothes in the world. I can feed you. I can give you all the most beautiful cars and all this. But if you do not love yourself, if you do not value yourself and see how important you are in this whole scheme of things we call life, then all these other things are naught. They mean nothing. You are the most important thing and seeing that and loving yourself is not a selfish act. It is the most beautiful thing we can do for ourselves, love ourselves, and then we will be able to go out and love others and advocate for others, because we want for others what we want for ourselves, because we love ourselves and we know how to love others.
You
Yeah.
know,
Amen.
amen. And I want to say one thing too, an open forum, that when I was at the event the other day, I said, everybody's in here. And I said, what lets me know that we're not operating at the capacity that we're supposed to be operating is because none of y'all people hug me. Y'all don't kiss me. We don't dance together. We don't sing together, right? We're not breaking bread together, right? So we in these spaces of basically potential harm, right? I was actually reading something the other day on the freedom fighters, where Earth the Kid, that was a part of freedom fighters, and they was killing a lot of freedom fighters in the time of Earth the Kid, and this is not easy work. This is work that we always have to be basically cultivated. Yes, I want you to dance with me. I want you to sing with me. I definitely want you to hug me. And if you kiss me on the cheek like I'm Italian, I'll take that too, right? So it's basically understanding basically like this raw energy. We have to have this raw energy to be able to intersect with each other, right? Without restrictions, right? It has to be an open forum. We have to be open books to one another to do this work, to continue, because I see a lot of brothers and sisters fall off the platforms. They fall off of doing the work because they're not being cultivated. You know what I'm saying? They're not being strategized, and they're not being anchored, as Chantel said. And this is so important for us to be able to anchor ourselves in this work and a spirit of having that love and embrace. We have to come from a platform of love in order to do this work,
Yes. And
right?
I want to say that it's so beautiful to have these different spirits here. I mean, Jessica, Chantel, Damien, Nathaniel, myself, we're all unique individuals, but the one thing that we have in common is our love for humanity, and knowing that it's not a thing of I. that when I am elevated, we are all elevated. I want to share what I have. Jessica is sharing what she has. Damien is sharing. Uh, Chantel, Nathaniel, because we all want to elevate together. And we can do that when we unify. See that synergy, that energy that we're generating when it
Yeah.
goes out and it's spread out abroad, then see that's what will come back to us, and we just send more of it out. Just send
Yeah,
more.
because I feel the energy from here. You know, I'm not physically in the room with anybody, but I actually feel that energy from here. You know, and it's actually like the telephone. The telephone is raw energy that's actually moved from one place to the next. We are the adventures of telephone. We are the telephone, right? We have that level of connectivity with ourselves. You know, I can think about somebody and be like, hey, and they just call me, right? We
Yes.
have this level, you know what I mean? In our lives, it taps in and out here and there, but it does exist. And when we actually use it and we actually be purposeful and intentional about, you know, tapping into things and seeing the world from different perspectives other than our own, right? Peter Jennings actually wrote a book, and he was actually talking about when he would travel all over the world for the newspapers. You know, he was actually saying, like, you know, when I went to all these different nations, I saw that each one of them had a speck of the truth. And he said it was just so horrific to see this life that he had, and we get to see all these nations eat all these different food and see all these different cultures and things of that nature, that he was never able to bring all these different nations and cultures together, so they actually can share their truths, so their truths can actually become more fundamental, you know what I'm saying? So we can actually bring some real changes into the world. And he said he was able to document these phenomenal things in the world, but wasn't able to make the changes that he wanted. You know, and I think that it is a space for us to actually bring forth change. I want to basically interact with everybody on this platform. You know, I go to
Has
Ohio.
everybody shared you've got everybody's information, because I definitely want to connect with everyone that's on this platform, because I really
got all
feel
the information.
that, right, there are things that we can do together, and the more we unite and the more we work together, the better we will all be, because there are certain things that I know that each one of you can add to what I do. And I know that I can add to you. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I love this platform. That's why I'm so thankful for Nathaniel. Every time I come on here, I'm so thankful for him and for these wonderful guests that he's always bringing on wonderful people into my life. So I'm just thankful.
Yeah, definitely. Jessica, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I am just listening and just absorbing everybody's energy. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and this conversation, I just want to know where this conversation stemmed from. And this is why it's so important to pay attention to the energies and stuff out there. This conversation stemmed from a Facebook post by a woman named Shawana Vaughn. She didn't attend, but I actually sent her the link, but I didn't catch her. And she was actually speaking about advocacy and basically the criminalization of advocacy, where they're not expanding advocacy from the different components that's available because they actually hoarding the money. So they're not expanding advocacy. They're not getting the basic change agents like me and pay me, because I would go to Ohio, Cleveland, North Carolina, Texas. I'll be everywhere. I'm like a bumblebee, right? And there's other people just like me, right? And they won't bring these extensions to these different levels, you know what I'm saying? So we can break and eradicate change. I can actually go to Ohio, sit down with Damien and build an infrastructure, right? And then break out. And then Damien link me to his friend that might be over here and build infrastructure over there, and then break out again, right? And it's not about ownership. It's not about ownership. It's about awareness. It's about increasing awareness about our change. There's no reason to be moving through life, putting things into place, and they never catch root. There's no reason for it. There's no reason why Chantel would actually take a bad seed that was cracked and put it in the ground, knowing it's not going to produce any fruit. That would be weird. You know what I'm saying? So the same thing with us, we cannot continue to plant seeds that's not bearing true fruits.
And the thing is that we should do is not let different labels divide us. That's what
They
I
don't
want.
exist.
I'm really an advocate for that. That is one of the reasons that a lot of times we do not make progress, is because we allow labels to divide us. I don't want to work with this person because they're an ex-con. I don't want to work with this person because they're from the hood. I don't want to work with this person because they're a Christian. I don't want to work with this person because they're Hebrew Israelite. I don't want to work with this person because they're white. I don't want to work with this person. All of these labels that divide us, when we could put all of our energy into forgetting about the petty thing, that does not matter. I want to know, are you about serving and elevating and helping someone else? That's what I want to know. I don't care about your past. I don't care about any of that. All I want to know is, are you in this for selfishness, just the money? I don't, are you in here just for the money? Just give me some of that money so that I can help Chantel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I would like to just say two quick things.
Definitely.
First, what you're speaking of when you say about the money and things like that, that's a conversation about self-interest. And as a change coach and a change agent and an organizer at heart, when we mobilizing people to way to get them affixed to our issue and to our movement is to understand their self-interest. Some people are motivated by money. Nothing wrong with that motivation. But what we have to do is to learn how to affix self-interest, to the self-interest of the movement, right? Or
Right.
what we call interest alignment. And the reason why I raised this is because every opportunity we've had to move the meter in a positive direction came from building power. Then with that power, such as using voting as a strategy and things of these nature, moving power. But we had to have power to move power, right?
That's
And
right.
the mobilization of power and organizing is to help others understand their self-interest. Because a lot of folks don't understand their self-interest. They really don't understand and have been able to like understand their true internal locus of motivation. And so there's a methodology behind that. Chantel used a wonderful word, agency. Agency is a powerful word, and I use it a lot when I'm speaking to power, because as a returned citizen with an army of returned citizens behind me, and I come using the words power, it scares them. And then their reaction becomes fear-based. So I have to supplant that word with agency. And so I'm helping people into their agency. And then when we do the actual work and we line it up and helping somebody understand their self-interest and their own agency, we put it up as a bridge. And in the bridge, we have the lie. These are the labels that everybody buy into. These is the negative narrative, or of the dominant narrative that we've bought into. We're lazy, we're criminals, we're this, we're that, and other things pushed through industry. But when you're dealing with an individual, we have to take them through a process to help them break consent from them labels, and then break consent from the lie, which are all those individual things that hold us back from our own agency. Then move them over the bridge into their agency and to their personal power so they can add that to the sum total of the movement. This is an important conversation and process to have when building power, so that we can initiate impact and change on a legislative level and on a policy level, so that we can see we can see our fruits. We can see the harvesting of those fruits, of those seeds that were planted, right?
And that's people.
That's people.
That's
And that's
right.
people.
That's
People
right.
are
Right.
opportunities.
That's
So
People
that
are
right.
means that,
opportunities.
yeah, that's right. Because so when you any infrastructure that you may build for whatever reason under the sun of America, right? is actually pertaining to people.
Yes.
So when you got an infrastructure and the people on the bottom is not being fed on the bottom, and the infrastructure at the bottom is not being cultivated,
That's
you
the
actually
foundation.
you actually destroying the systematic structure which you
Yes.
have actually had the vision to build. So when you got to the top of the structure, you forgot the trickle down effects that actually that keeps you motivated, that keeps you energized to actually continue the mission that you selected as a leader, that you selected as an agency in this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
We make these personal choices to come into these spaces and create these different arenas that we may call different names. But these arenas are responsible for cultivating every seed that's on those platforms. You're not going to have a whole basket of seeds and say, I'm only going to use 2/3. You're going to use the whole basket. You know what I'm saying? There are things that we have to start changing in our mentalities. And one of the things that changed is the egotistical structure that we have developed amongst ourselves within these institutional structures that we actually created. Right? We have trapped ourselves in structures that we have not been able to free ourselves from, and then actually increase our brothers and sisters as we're moving along.
Yeah.
This is not about top heavy. I'm sorry, but this is not about top heavy. This is about the bottom, building the top, to keep the top heavy so they continue to do the fight and protect those that's on the bottom. If those that's on the top is not protecting those on the bottom, the ones that's on the bottom cannot protect those that's on the top. This is an equal relationship of purpose. There is no big guys and little U's. We are in this thing together, right? And we all going to pick up the rocks that we can pick up according to how heavy those rocks are. But because you have more strength than me and you pick up a bigger rock, don't mean that you deserve more than me, and doesn't mean that you're greater than me or more potential than me as a leader. It just means that you got a little more strength than me, and maybe you're doing a little more push-ups than me, right? We're not going to sit here and play these games and actually magnitude you and put you on a higher level. We all on a higher level. We are life. We came here as life forces. We came here to live as life, and we came here to operate as life, and we came here for nothing short of the matter. There's nothing else that we want to discuss or even concern ourselves with having a discussion with you about the potential of life and what the meaning of life is. We don't have to have a conversation. We are already it. And if we can increase ourselves, we have also the insight and responsibility and the audacity to increase other people. And this is what all these movements is about. I don't care what your organization is about. I don't care what your movement is about. I don't care what you label it is about. It's about the increasement and development of people, which is the ultimate seed in society.
I hear that fire, brother. I hear that fire. you talking revolution, and there's only two forms: revolution from the top, a coup d'etat, revolution from the bottom, spontaneous movement of the masses.
That's right.
That's what we
got to get from both angles.
Mobilizing the masses. And what's the first priority? And what's the first priority in the revolution from the bottom? They say the first movement is to acquire the means of communication. That's the basic format of spontaneous movement of the masses, to acquire all the and appropriate all the means of communication. So we have to saturate the platforms, reclaim our narratives, speak our story, speak life into the movement. So I'm with you, man.
I feel like there's no revolution if we're starving. So we have to
you cannot talk to a hungry man.
Feed the people. Feed the people.
Hey. William Blake.
What did the Romans do? Bread and circuses. They kept the people. They kept the people fed, and they kept them distracted. That's how they kept the people from rising.
That's what they would say.
Are you not entertained? That's right.
Matter of fact, William Blake said, "The dogs starving at the master's gate predicts the ruin of the state."
Yes.
We see that here. When we distill that, we see that here. The pandemic took all the bandages off. People are hungry. People have become more innovative and creative in how they hustle and survive. But you also see the anxiety and the hopelessness and the desperation playing out in violence. And you seeing everybody arming themselves because they're scared. They're arming themselves. And now
there has to be a balance in life. There has to be a balance. You can't go too far this way or too far that way. If you don't have a balance in your life, then you are going to either expire from this over here or this over there. You have to make sure that there is a balance to everything that
We understand that, but
Yeah.
when I'm dealing with certain aroused folks from the population I'm advocating for, they can't see beyond the hunger pains. It's
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
right.
move a
Maslow
person
hierarchy
up.
of needs. That's
I
correct.
can't move a person up to self-actuating where they can see themselves in the movement as a change coach and a change agent when he
They
hungry.
hungry.
And this
Yeah.
goes back to you, brother. This goes back to the original conversation. We have the top heavy
Don't
folk
bind the don't bind
throwing
the
money.
don't muzzle the oxen that tread the grain.
Hey, we have people from the top throwing money at certain issues that's red meat for us. They use those of us directly impacted to get out here to spread the
That's right.
gospel, to mobilize the people.
That's
Then
right.
when the winds of politics change, they gone. And
They're gone.
those of
That's
us
it.
who built the relationships and done the work is left there having to explain what happened.
That's correct.
This is what you and
And we,
I was
and
talking
it,
about.
and it's like we didn't never do the work. It's like we wasn't even on the platform. It's like we actually didn't even come out there in the first place, right? And this is what they're doing to a lot of these platforms. They leave them hollow. They come in, they take all the tools and resources out of it, right? And then they run, right? And now the space is just empty, right? And we got to bring people in like Chantel to come back and recultivate the land, right? You know what I mean? To bring forth life and bring forth truth to the issue, because the issue is still on the table.
You know what?
Right.
That's why that term woke, they use the term woke like it's a negative thing so that people will say, I would rather be asleep than woke.
Yeah.
People say, oh, okay, I don't want to be woke. Oh,
Yeah.
no, we need to be woke.
We need to be
Yeah.
woke.
That's what happened. That's what happened to the guy in the Matrix. He told
Yeah.
Agent Smith, he said, "You gonna put me back to sleep? You gonna put me back in the dream?
Yeah.
Can I have this particular dream?" Because the problem is, when you awoke, there's a level of responsibility that you
Yeah.
now have,
Yes.
because you know.
Right.
When you know, you are responsible for what you know. But
Mhm.
that's a hardship. That's a
Yeah.
hardship. That which is to give light must endure burning, right?
Yeah.
When you awoke. So when I walk the yard and I talk to my brethren about my ambitions when I come home, right? I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And like many of my other
Yeah.
brothers, when I came home and seen how much they taking out in taxes and stuff, I started complaining. Then I
Yeah.
had to re-narrate this, right? And I had to re-narrate it to myself. And then when I started dealing with my brothers, I'm like, hey, listen, man, we prayed, we did everything we wanted for our freedom. Man, freedom ain't free. You
Yeah.
gonna pay for this.
Mhm.
It's not free.
Yes.
It is not.
Overstanding is a burden. That's why they call
Yeah.
the bliss of ignorance. Because
Yeah.
when you know and you awoke, you gotta hold and carry that
That's
responsibility.
right.
That
Yeah.
ain't easy. And those of us that are wide awake and see what it really is and what's at stake, we get bad dreams. And it's
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
gonna make us want to go back to sleep and try to forget, or it's gonna be an invitation to operate on a new level, to make some type of change in this life. So in the sunset of my days, I won't focus on all the life missed and have all of this. If only I would have,
That's right.
could have, could have. I'm gonna
Nah.
feel good
Done.
that I did something with what I had. And I learned that from working in the funeral home business on the weekends for 7 years. All these unfinished lives.
Woo.
The tick
Yeah.
tock of the clock hit
Yeah.
me different. It hit me different than it hit the average human
Oh.
being. For those of us who've been incarcerated, we feel
Yeah,
that.
bro.
That's like a blade slicing away at us. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
as
bro.
Jessica said, we got a lot we want to do. And those of us who are awake and aligned and in alignment with a higher vision and sense of purpose for ourselves, especially if it's God given and God focused, man, we feel it more than other people. It's
Yeah.
just,
Right.
it's the nature of the game. We're going to bleed, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
That's
gonna
But
right.
bleed. And that's what we signed up for this. This is a choice. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? But it's also a beautiful thing, because there's no feeling, in the world, to be doing what you love to do in life, and be in your space and have that energy come back and embrace you. You may call it chills, or you got vibration going through your body, but that's just that energy of who you are actually come back as a confirmation that, yeah, you belong here. This is what you're supposed to be doing. I've been
Yeah.
trying to tell you this all along, right? You know, so it's actually like, it's this inner conversation that we actually have to listen for our lives, right?
Mm.
This is what allows us to actually be a part of our spiritual learnings at every step of the way. Every foot that
Yes.
we, every step that
Yes.
we take, we are part of that learning process. We're growing through these process, right? And we're coming out on top to come to this accusation that, yo, I'm living life, man. I'm
Yeah.
at peace with myself. I can do things that I want to do. I don't have no restrictions about it. And like the brother said, when our sunset come, man, you know, I'm at peace. I
Yeah.
can say, man, I done
And
put
you know,
all these things together.
yes. And Damien, what you said resonates so with me because I know that I am where I am because of all the pain and suffering and all the things that were negative in my life. I count them in such a blessing now because without all of that, I would not be where I am because out of my pain, I have my purpose. Out of
And
my
you
Right.
know the Most High, the Most High said he tests fire in the furnace. He tests gold in the furnace, right?
Yeah. We don't grow in the happy times. We grow in the
no,
hard times.
That's right, in
yes,
the furnace.
yes, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty.
Yeah, and I also think like a lot of the stuff that we deal with in advocacy, it like I connect a lot of stuff to the seasons. And so it's like we all have our seasons. We have our seasons in the summer where we're flourishing, we're happy, things are bright. And then we have our storms, right? We need the storms because we need the rain to replenish
That's
us.
right.
We need
That's
the
right.
darkness to cover us. We need the snow to bind us so we can't move. So we have to kind of deal with our issues, right? And so
Mm.
I look at those times of darkness as like, oh, okay, this is my protection space. Like things are hard, like I'm suffering, but at the same time, I'm being cultivated for this other level because if I don't suffer right now in this space that I'm in, then when I get to my next level, my suffering will be way greater.
And you know
Yeah.
what? That is the attitude. See, that's having the proper attitude about every season that we're in. That's
Yeah,
the proper attitude. Because if you don't see that, okay, there's a harvest time, there's a
yes,
time for planting, there's a
yes,
time for reaping, there's a
yes,
all of these are is just as you
Go
said,
ahead and speak that
cycle of life.
Ecclesiastics.
The
That's
cycle
right.
of life. If
yes,
I don't have happiness, how am I going to know what sadness is? If I'm
This
not
is
sad, how can I?
how I'm gonna know what happy is.
Right. So
exactly.
it's all
Yeah,
necessary, but it's the attitude. If I
yeah,
have an attitude of gratitude for whatever season I am grateful. I
yeah,
am grateful for the rain. I'm grateful for the snow. I'm
yes,
grateful for the sunshine. I'm
yes.
grateful for it all because all of it has a purpose. And
Mhm.
so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the other
definitely.
piece I did want to share briefly is just about wellness as the advocate, wellness for the advocates. And so I
Okay.
think sometimes for us it's like, we're helping the people, we're out in the streets, we're doing the work, we're taking on the burdens, and we're not taking care of ourselves. And then we fall apart or we don't have anyone to help put us back together. And we're like, oh, like I should be stronger, right? But it's like we need to embrace the weakness that we all have, and that's that we are human beings and that we have feelings and that things are going to connect to us and traumatize us and attach to us and our spirits, and we need to incorporate wellness into our practice, whatever that looks like. If that looks like, okay, I'm gonna walk to work because it takes me 20 minutes to walk and I can just clear my head before I start my day, or after work I'm gonna get an ice cream cone, or I'm gonna get an icy, or I'm gonna go, go on the swings, like whatever that looks like, we need to incorporate that into our advocacy work because that's how we prevent ourselves from deteriorating, because takers are gonna take and we're all givers and we're gonna want to give unlimitedly, right? We're gonna be
Yeah, yeah.
See,
like you get unlimited
yes,
everything.
that's why I
That's right.
advocate self-care.
Yeah,
That's why I advocate it for
Yeah.
everyone. That's why I preach it to Chantel, because without self-care, without taking that time to regenerate, no matter what you're doing, no matter how much it comes back. And that's why some people think self-care is selfish. That's why I
It's
always,
not.
it's not. You have, if you want to give, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
No, you
You're
can't.
always giving, 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 giving. But how can you give water from your cup if your cup is empty?
How you
You
gonna do it?
know, how can you do
So
it? So
so I
self-care,
wanna
I that's why I'm a self-care, what else I say, self-care, not
Guru. Guru.
guru.
so so I wanna say share two things. My phone is at 10%, so
All
it's
right, that's
going
good,
quick.
brother.
I
Yeah,
wanna
that's
share
good.
I wanna share two things. One, Chantel is a high priestess, whether she owns that or not. And
Mm-hmm.
when people say about self-care, if they dissuade you from self-care, they're really trying to block you from your own agency. They want to keep you frazzled.
That's right.
And the the piece what you said about water, me and this gentleman, we talked about it before, because those of us who've been out here so eager to do the work, we done got pimped many times on different levels for our intellectual capital and our enthusiasm and our energy reserves. So part of my pushback when I started asking for the value in return because of the value
Yeah.
I bring, I always framed it as a banking concept. I would ask the opportunity holder or the gatekeeper, like, hey, if I'm making withdrawals out of the bank of my experiences, out of the bank of me, and there are no deposits going in
That's
to me,
right. Go
then
ahead.
by definition, am I not operating at a deficit? And if
Deficit.
Go
so,
ahead.
how long can I continue to do so before the economy of my time and motivation
Nation.
crashes?
That's
And
right.
how they answered that would create a baseline for how they value me and what I bring into that particular space. And so, and lastly, um, I love poems. I wrote them when I was in jail, but I loved reading them when I was depressed and I would autopsy them, and they would give me new meaning on things. But I have a poem that I want to end with that's so
Okay.
appropriate to this space.
Okay.
It's by Bill White. He says, when your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision is gone, no parts of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark where the night has eyes to recognize its own. For there you can be sure you will never be on love. For sometimes it takes the darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn that anybody or anything that doesn't bring you alive is too small for you. So in this space, I've been brought alive, and so that's refreshing. In every
Yes.
move that I make,
Yeah.
if I'm in a conversation or a part of an enterprise or invited into a situation that I don't feel in living and alive in, it's too
Go ahead.
small for me. And I map my exit plan out of there. So,
That's right.
um,
And they said
thank
you the
you.
man right here. Craig said you the
Yeah.
man, Damien.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I screenshotted everybody's number and information on there. Um,
Yeah.
and mine is on there. I'll be reaching out. My next move would be to reach out to everyone to find time to do a one-to-one.
Okay.
It all begins with a
Oh
one-to-one.
yes. Oh
We
yes.
tell
That'd be great.
Yes.
stories. We tell stories in the way we live our lives. In our stories, when we hear each other's, we find our self-interest and our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we see where the alignments are, where the cross-pollination is, and then we move forward, you know. And
That's right.
my brother, thank you for inviting me into the
It was a
space.
pleasure.
I'll be
It was a
waiting for you to
pleasure.
get back at me for further instructions on what the next part of the plan is with the
Yeah.
platform
Yeah.
or whatever. Everybody, thank you very much.
Thank
Sexy
you.
Sunday
Thank you,
salutations
Damien.
to y'all.
Thank you,
Thank
Damien.
you,
I really
Thank
Damien, man.
you.
That was a blessing. It was
Thank
a
you so
blessing to
much
meet
for being
you.
here, Damien. I cannot wait to hear from you again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh
You're
man,
on
that's great. Awesome,
it. Okay.
brother. Have a
Thank you,
blessed
Pooh.
week. Have a blessed day.
All right.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was
So
awesome.
beautiful.
And Chantel's a poet, so I don't know if she
Yes,
was just
I
checking that
am.
out.
Yeah, I was. You saw me on my eyes closed. I was just like embracing the moment. I was like,
That
wow.
was a meditative moment right there. You know
Yes,
what
that
I'm
was
saying?
very
Yes,
beautiful.
yes. So, are we ready to end?
Yeah, I was going to end like 1:30. You know, we can have a
Okay,
little more
okay,
discussion. We
because
can just do it at one. We got
I'm
10 more
you
minutes.
know
I
I'm ready
know.
to go into. Damien put me in a
A
state.
meditative trance. A meditative
Yes,
Yes,
trance.
and I think we needed that. I think, and that's the part of that was the part that I was trying to talk about, like incorporating wellness into it. It's like,
Yeah.
maybe we need a poem to end it off for the
Yeah.
the heavy conversations. Maybe we need some lightness, some laughter, like you know what I mean. Like we need to incorporate these things into our practice because
that is one of the things. And I am a Dianetics auditor, and whenever,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, whenever we go into heavy sessions, we start with pleasure moments. We start with people recalling their, beautiful moments, and then we go into the heaviness of the situation, whatever they're dealing with. But we always try to end with a pleasure moment, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't, when you go in and you have that's part of that self-care. Whatever you're doing, whatever heavy situation you're in, it's always good to go back and rejuvenate yourself by going into those pleasure moments and taking time to meditate about the pleasure that you're having. And that is what takes us into that gratitude. If we
yeah,
start, whenever we're in a heavy down situation, if we start thinking about the things that we are grateful for, then
yeah,
that helps lift our spirits. So
It
yeah,
would change it. It would change it. And also, when those thoughts come, also have the ability to actually stop your thoughts. You
yeah,
know, try to stop it for like 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds until you get stronger and stronger. And you can actually just stop it for like 10 seconds or something like that.
right.
And that allow you to start moving things out of your way that has nothing to do with your potential for learning, right?
mm,
Things that's in your space must be there to increase you,
yes,
right? You cannot have things in your space that are not going to increase you. And that has to be increased on multiple levels, because all the work that we're doing, we also have to have a space for ourselves that we cut out into the world to replenish us. Because now we got to go back out there and we got to continue this work all over again. We
yeah,
have to be replenished, right? And we have to have honoring of self in order for us to actually believe that we have the right to be replenished, to have the right to self-care, right? We have to honor ourselves and everything that we're doing. We wake up in the morning, we eating our snack. Oh my God, I got teeth. I can eat my snack. Right? You want to be able to do things in honor of who you are, the most simplest things for your appreciation. Because the world might not appreciate you, but you have to find that method on how to appreciate yourself and pour into your own cup,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I was saying, Nathaniel, about how it starts with self, how it starts with us being able to recognize how important it is for us to take care of ourselves, eat properly, get the proper amount of sleep, hydrate, watch our thoughts, because everything starts with a thought. If we're not thinking properly, then we're going to end up. That's why I always stop every now and then and just look at your thoughts. Stop
Yeah.
just what you're doing. Like right now, pause and say, what am I thinking? You
Mm.
know, are my thoughts elevating me, or do I have those self-limiting beliefs that I am not good enough to be in the space that I'm in, and I feel that someone else is better than me, and I don't understand my own uniqueness and how wonderful I am, and how fantastic the creator has made me and the gifts.
Me.
So it's
Yeah.
all about that. And so I appreciate everyone on this
That was
platform.
great.
It
yeah,
has been wonderful. I have learned so much. I
Me
mm-hmm,
too.
that's why
Definitely.
I say to people, don't ever think that you have reached the point where you think, oh, well, I don't have anything else to learn. And I
Nah, you
think
don't.
that that's why people get old,
Yeah.
because they think that they know it all and have seen it all, and that someone cannot tell them anything else. But we can all learn. There's
Yeah.
always something to learn. And so I am just so appreciative
Yeah.
of
And I
all.
just want to uplift something my friend DK, she's my garden partner and just a big sister to me. She always says, like, we need everybody to do everything. And so, like, sometimes it's like, I don't want to go to the 6 o'clock meeting. I need somebody to do that, right? I don't want to hand out flyers.
Yeah,
I need somebody that wants to do that. I don't want to be on social media. I need somebody to do that. And so, like, as leaders and as advocates, to make space for other people to take up parts of the work that are heavy
that's
for us,
right.
that we don't have the capacity to do. If
That's
I don't have
right.
the capacity to answer my phone, I'm not going to give out my number, right? And so it's like, how
Yeah,
can
that's right.
we continue to, like, make space for others within our platforms, within our larger communities, and so that way people can be invested, people can be protected, people can be uplifted, people can be supported, and then that's how we get the community care, and that's how we get these community hubs that we're trying to cultivate, and that's how we get people interests to be aligned, because it's about more than, oh yeah, you gave me $200 every couple weeks. Now it's about, yo, I had the capacity to feed my family for a couple weeks, and when I came here, I was seen, I was heard, and I was respected. And as
Right.
time went on, the money became less significant for me, and it became more about what it is that we're doing and how this is level. So, like,
That's right.
just giving people that agency to continue to be impactful, with us and beside us and for us, I think is like what
It's
I
so
got
important.
from this.
It's
Yeah.
so important because this is things that you're laying down, and you're actually going to see, you know what I'm saying, the increase of that for the next 10, 20, even 30 years. You know what I'm saying? And this is
Right.
what it's about. It's about putting things in place that we're not even going to eat off of. Other people are going to eat off these things. Other people are going to be able to thrive off these things. And we want to know that we're a part of wholesome things and things that actually have intentionality, attached to them. So we won't be able to waste our energy in spaces, what I mean, that is wasting our energy, right? We want to be
That's
able
right.
to increase according to our energy, what we bring to the table, and we want to be able to use every part. No one says, I got a full functional bike, but today I'm gonna take the wheel off and I'm gonna ride down the block, right? No one says any of these things, right? You don't break up things that's functional. So we should stop doing these things amongst people as well when we in these places, regardless of what you call these things or label these things. We need to bring people together so we actually be able to do this work on an effortless level instead of being as atrocious as it actually has been for a lot of people, and people have actually had bad experiences working in platforms that's supposed to save lives. We're here to save lives and to move ourselves forward at the same time.
Yes.
And with that,
Now,
Gina, you can take us out.
oh, yes. Now it's time for that wonderful pleasure moment. If you are in a safe place, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath to the count of 4. Let it out through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Again, take a deep breath. Let it out slow. Relax. Relax the top of your head. Relax. Relax your forehead. Relax your face. Relax your face. Relax your neck. Move your head back and forth. Relax. Relax your shoulders.
Oh,
Relax. Yes. Relax your arms, your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers. Relax. Move on down your body, relaxing and breathing, taking deep breaths, letting them out slowly. Take a deep breath, let it out slowly. Move on down your legs, relax. Relax your calves, your ankles, your feet. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes. Relax. Relax. I am going to count backwards from 5, and we're going to take a deep breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Peace.
you're gonna put me to sleep and blessings.
Peace.
That was love right there. Appreciate you.
Oh God. Oh man. Peace and blessings, guys. It was amazing.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, definitely.
With you all.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
Thank you
definitely
so
gonna
much,
follow up on
everybody.
this.
Yes.
Yeah, we could do some individual with y'all too, because I have some great stories individually too. So we actually want to reach back out to y'all on that level.
Peace.
Yep. It was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Good day, guys.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.